What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Games Up podcast. My name is Cameron McCulloch-Keeble, and again, I'm afraid it's just me that you're stuck with this week. It's been an incredibly hectic week that saw me in a different part of the country, and I ended up in A&E, and so scheduling's been really difficult this week. Sorry, we promise we are still about and doing these. It's just we're going to have little periods like this where stuff gets in the way occasionally, but don't worry, we're still here, and we are still going to have a full episode of Games Up this week, even if it's slightly shorter than usual. But maybe shorter is what you want. If shorter is what you want, let us know. Do you like the full kind of long format podcast, or do you like them a little bit more bite-sizey like this? Tell us, we'd love to know. So, with that being said, let's get into the news. Now, last week was a big week of leaks, a massive week of leaked details for a whole bunch of different games and lineups and freebies and all that kind of jazz. And this week is kind of seeing the fallout of that to some extent. So let's start with, of course, Destiny 2. Last week we saw Destiny 2 get leaked. We saw details for it get leaked to the internet, with artwork for it get leaked and details for a beta get leaked, and it seemed very reminiscent of Destiny 1's launch, and this week we got it confirmed. Now, I didn't think it would be as quick a turnaround as this, I must admit. I thought we would see Destiny 2 much closer to E3. In the podcast last week, I said they have more time to work on the artwork, because I really thought they did, but no, it turns out that last week we had Destiny 2 leaked, and this week, there it is. It's out there. The details are there for all to see. The beta was confirmed. The artwork was proven to be real. The logo's a little bit darker, I believe, than the one that got leaked. But there you go. Destiny 2 from a leak to a real announcement. So the game comes out in September, as we said, with a beta just beforehand. And I'm sure we'll see more at E3 this year. They have an exclusive marketing deal with Sony, so it's likely to be on PlayStation stage that we'll see Destiny, as to be honest, it has been for a number of years now. Nothing too surprising there, but that was the announcement of Destiny 2. Now, the next piece of news is that Peter Molyneux, legendary game developer and notable game developer as well, notable character in the games industry, has given a pretty big interview, the first that he's done in quite a while, where he talks about where he is right now, where his approach to game development is right now, but more interestingly, it talks about where his approach to games press is right now. He talks about how he's taking an approach where he sort of soft launches things, as in just lets them come out. He doesn't try and hype them in any way. He's gone back to the basics of just being a coder rather than working on large teams. And he's talking about being a bit more platform agnostic as well. The idea that actually he's had more player-based success, as in more people playing his games on mobile than on his other platforms, but that success is measured differently on different platforms, so it's not quite as easy to say he'll be focusing on like PC or console or mobile going forward. He's sort of more focuses on what's best for the game. Something quite fascinating about the article is he talks about how he's gone back to the very basics of coding, because in some of his original games, Black and White being a main example, he was a main coder for it, and so he was much more able to translate the ideas that he had to the game. Peter Molyneux is known for being a sort of pie-in-the-sky ideas man who doesn't really come through. His games are fantastic typically, but they lack some of the punch, and they lack some of the innovation that they're sold with and they're talked about in the first place. So it's kind of interesting to see him going back to the drawing board here and really trying to be less hypey, less bombastic, less kind of traditional video games industry, and more true to what he's actually good at, and maybe even more true to that ideas man that we came to know and arguably came to love in a kind of love-hate way. So if you're interested in that, the article's available on glixel.com. It's called Legendary Game Maker Peter Molyneux Talks Regrets and What's Next, and it's written by Chris Sulentrop. So go and have a look at that. It's genuinely quite a good article to give a read through, and some of the perspectives and things that he has to share and that Peter Molyneux has to share they're fantastic, so go and give it a read. For the next piece of news, we got a little bit more meat on the bones of the new Batman game rumour. So when it originally happened, there was rumours of a game from Warner Brothers being announced, and that game turned out to be Shadow of War, the sequel to Shadow of Mordor. So it kind of led us to believe that the Batman Arkham rumours weren't true and we could kind of put them to one side. But this may not be the case. Recently, a piece of marketing material for E3 was shared around the internet, and what it was is a list of developers and publishers who are going to attend E3 and the games that they'll be bringing. It could leak a whole bunch of stuff if it turned out to be true, and one of the interesting ones was listed as Batman 2017. Now take this one with a massive grain of salt. Some of the stuff that was on this list seemed, huge. Like we're talking Beyond Good and Evil 2 levels of big here. If it's real, it's a pretty impressive list of games for E3, and it looks like it's going to be a fantastic year. And as a massive Arkham fan, I can't wait for whatever the next Batman game is. I must say, I don't know that I'm entirely convinced yet, especially as the Warner Brothers game turned out to be something entirely different that we knew had existed for a while. But it may be a little bit more meat on the bones, and it may point us towards something actually being there. You know what they say, no smoke without fire. So I'm starting to get a bit more excited on this one. I can't wait for whatever the next Batman game turns out to be. And the final piece of news this week is keep your ears to the ground, because we may be getting a major reveal on Xbox Scorpio in the coming few days. We've had rumours and leaks from a couple of places. They've been verified by a couple of places and then de-verified by a couple of places. Known gaming Twitter personality Shinobi has tweeted that we will be getting Scorpio reveals next week, that there will be details of Forza 7 next week, and then the head of Xbox France has said no, there's been a bit of a back and forth, but it may be the case that within the next week or so we find out a little bit more, if not a lot more, about Scorpio. I'm taking this one with a grain of salt. It seems quite a way away from E3 to come out the gate with what Scorpio is, and maybe Microsoft is planning to do a much longer marketing push on this than they did with the original Xbox One, but I'm not sure. I think maybe they need to go really hard with the games at E3 and hard with the system at E3, but then Phil Spencer knows what he's doing with the Scorpio probably far better than I do, so I guess we have to wait this one out and see what happens with it. But we may well be getting a major Scorpio reveal this week. The other thing that we're getting this week is the gaming Baftas, one of the biggest, most recognised award shows in the gaming industry. Award shows are very important for entertainment industries. They're a way of kind of mainstream legitimizing an entertainment industry. When you think of the movies, you think of the Oscars. When you think of music, you think of the Brits or the Billboard Awards. And gaming hasn't had that for a number of years. Now, Jeff Keighley and the work that he's done in the Video Game Awards at the end of the year has made a big change on that, and actually they're really starting to hit the nail on the head with a formula that's working. I'd like to see less cheesy adverts in there, but they've got to make their money somehow. The other outlet for video games is the gaming Baftas, the same Baftas, the British Academy of Film and Television, which give away awards to film and television. So there is a gaming award ceremony from the Baftas, and what we are going to do as this week's topic of the week is go through each of the categories one by one. There's a few of them, but it shouldn't take too long, and I'm going to predict which one I think is going to win of them. This may turn out to be a massive prophesizing session where they're all right. The chances are I'm going to be very wrong. But we're going to start with the AMD Esports Audience Award. The nominees are Clash Royale, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, Dota 2, League of Legends, Overwatch, and Street Fighter V. Personally, in my opinion, I think Overwatch is going to take this. I think all the other competitors on there are very strong competitors. I think Clash Royale may be a bit less of a strong competitor, but I think it certainly deserves to be on the list to some extent. But Overwatch has grown to the level it's at now in such a short amount of time that I think it really deserves recognition for the way that community's been built up, the way that they've been kept on track, the way that Blizzard has supported it from an esports perspective. I think it's quite admirable the way that that game has gone from a actually something that looked like a bit of an underdog, because at the time of its launch, there wasn't actually a huge amount of hype for Overwatch and Battleborn. They were coming out both at the same time. They seemed to be sort of hot on the heels of each other. People were a bit kind of flat on it. But since Overwatch is released, it's really hit an upward curve. And I think now we're seeing what it can be going forward, and that's thanks to the work of Blizzard. So I'm going to say that Overwatch takes this one. The second category is Artistic Achievement. And the nominees for this are Abzu, Dishonored 2, Inside, The Last Guardian, Uncharted 4, and Unravel. Now, the problem I have with this category is artistic achievement can really mean anything. It could mean from a purely graphic standpoint, in which case I think it's fair to say that Uncharted 2 seems a fairly set winner. It's unparalleled this year in graphics capabilities alone. The vistas and the lighting and the textures and models, they're on a new level. So I think if it were purely from a graphical standpoint, that's fair to say. But artistic achievement can mean something much, much wider. It can mean the statement that they want to get across, the artistic achievement of the project overall. And I think if it's the project overall, we should be looking at Inside. Inside is a fascinating look into video games and a fascinating look into the mind of a video game developer, specifically a small indie developer. Without wanting to spoil anything, the way it makes you interact with the world and the way that it paints that world is truly fascinating, and the things that it makes you consider as a player of video games are quite fascinating as well. So I think the two main contenders for this award, based on where it goes, will be either Uncharted 4 or Inside. The next category for the gaming Baftas is Audio Achievement, and the nominations are Battlefield 1, Doom, Inside, The Last Guardian, Res Infinite, and Uncharted 4. This is going to be pretty hard. I haven't actually played any of the games on this list at this point. I've tinkered around with Battlefield 1 a little bit. I've tinkered around with Doom a little bit. I played the beta for it, but not much more than that. And I've played a little bit of Inside, but not enough to comment on its audio achievement. So I'm a little bit stuck on this. I can totally see why Battlefield 1 would be in the running for this. I mean, Battlefield 1 is a game based around massive, huge-scale wars and battles, but it's set so far in the past that actually it's got to have been a really difficult process of nailing those sounds and those soundscapes on the head, because that kind of weaponry probably doesn't exist, certainly in a recordable state anymore. I imagine there must have been a really difficult process of Foley going into that game to really make it sound authentic and make it sound believable and real to the people who are playing it. So I think I'm going to give my shot here to Battlefield 1, but it's a pretty big shot in the dark and uneducated one. So this is maybe the first category of, I'm sure, many where I'm probably likely to be nowhere near the winner, the actual winner. The next category is Best Game. And the nominations are Firewatch, Inside, Overwatch, Stardew Valley, Titanfall 2, and Uncharted 4. Now, luckily, there's another game that deserves to be on this list, but unfortunately hasn't been nominated, and that is The Witness. If The Witness were on here, this would be such a hard category to choose from, in my opinion. But seeing as it's not, I find this decision quite easily. I'd have to give Best Game last year to Overwatch. I think that the game is balanced so beautifully. It plays so fantastically. It's so satisfying and varied. And not in a way that feels forced or in a way that feels mandated, but in a way that feels organic. I feel like I jumped through characters and maps and favourites in Overwatch naturally, gravitating from one style of play to the next because I'm finding my own strengths and weaknesses rather than because problem A needs solution B. It feels like a much more flowy, much more capable game, and it's designed entirely for multiplayer to capture that level of brilliant development and tight, balanced mechanics in a multiplayer-centric game is, frankly, almost unheard of. And in my opinion, it's such a beautiful, varied, eye-catching, fun-to-play game that for a number of years now we've had Game of the Year nominations where they've been big, deep, clever, well-made, dark, heavy games that take hundreds of hours or to really get the most out of. And to me, Overwatch is something where I can sit down on my sofa, play a match, and really feel like I've done something and really feel like I've enjoyed it, unless I haven't played very well, and then I just want to go back and have more. It's what video games do perfectly, which is to introduce a fun, player-based feedback loop that's so addictive, so gorgeous to watch, that I just want to keep going back. For me, Overwatch was the best game of 2016 by a long mile, but The Witness was close behind, and I'm very sad to see it not in the list of contentions here. I hope that Overwatch gets Best Game of the Year at the Baftas. I don't know whether it will, but that would be my pick. The next category is British Game, and the nominees are Batman Arkham VR, Forza Horizon 3, No Man's Sky, Overcooked, Planet Coaster, and Virginia. To me, I have to give this award to Overcooked. I think Overcooked is so much fun and so cleverly designed. It's such a brilliant concept for a game. And it's really something that, it's one of those I can't believe they haven't done it before games. I can't believe that Overwatch was the first one to take that concept and not just take it into a game, but nail the feeling of it so well. The last time I played games with Lawrence before he moved away to Glasgow, we got together and we had a big gaming night as a kind of send-off for him to go off to this other country. And I thought, I'm going to buy Overcooked and we're going to play it for a little bit. And I thought we would play it for a little bit, but we didn't. We played it until nearly 4 or 5 in the morning, coming up with new solutions as to, how do we get this service thing. How do we serve this plate of food around this iceberg when we're slipping all over the place and we can't move this cooker to the other cooker and put the fire extinguishers out? And what happens when the van splits? And we were being so deep and analytical when it's a game about when we had a raccoon in a wheelchair making pizza. It's such a perfect balance of silly and fun, but deep and clever. And I think it's just brilliant. If you haven't played Overcooked, you owe it to yourself and anyone you can play couch co-op with to sit down and try and play through an hour of that game. Because after that point, I guarantee you'll be hooked. I think Best British Game by a mile in 2016 was Overcooked. The next award is Debut Game, and the nominees here are Firewatch, Overcooked, Oxenfree, That Dragon Cancer, The Witness, and Virginia. This is a tough one. This is a tough one for a number of reasons, because it kind of makes you question what counts as a debut game. The Witness was a debut game for the company that made it, but it wasn't a debut game for Jonathan Blow, and it's really his design philosophies that make The Witness what they are. So, this one's a hard one to judge. I think I would give it to The Witness nonetheless. The Witness is a game that's clever on a much, much different level. I haven't even completed it at this point. I'm far from completing it at this point. But it's made me look at games, and specifically at that game, at The Witness, so differently than when I started. I imagine going back and talking to the Cameron who started playing that game and saying, no, you're doing this wrong and that wrong and the other wrong. And it's not that I was doing them wrong, it's just the game taught me to do them better. And it did it so naturally and organically. It's beautifully designed, and when you get into the later stages of how beautifully designed it is and how intricate this world is and how intricately you're being taught to interact with it, it makes you appreciate how powerful a video game can be. So I think, even though I'm not sure that it would entirely count as a debut game, I think I'd give it to The Witness. The next award goes to the Evolving Game, and the nominations are Destiny Rise of Iron, Elite Dangerous Horizons, EVE Online, Final Fantasy XIV Online, Hitman, and Rocket League. I'm going to give this one to Rocket League. I think Rocket League has come a massive, massive way since its very, very humble beginnings. And I think that the developer themselves have reacted really well to it. They could have gone on to develop a Rocket League 2 and sort of pump it out and make more money off the back of that and sort of do it the traditional way. But actually what they've done is taken the opportunity to build something really clever, build something really sustained, and build something that a community has gravitated gravitated around. And I think they've taken that opportunity to do something very, very smart and very, very impressive considering their humble beginnings. So I'd definitely give this one to Rocket League. The next award is the Best Family Game. And the nominations are Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens, Overcooked, The Playroom VR, Pokemon Go, Ratchet & Clank, and Toka Hair Salon. My first thought when I saw this category was Overcooked. I think Overcooked is a great game, and I can totally imagine parents and children sitting down and playing it and getting equally frustrated, but teaching each other how to get past things, and I thought that was a really cute idea. But then it occurred to me, I have to give this to Pokemon Go, and I'll tell you why. When Pokemon Go first came out, I was back in Milton Keynes, and I would go out after work from my house and do a little walk around the block to catch some Pokemon. One time I did this, and I met an old friend from years and years ago who was walking his daughter round. He was saying Pokemon Go had given him a great opportunity to connect with his daughter. He would take her out on walks, she would catch Pokemon with him, and together they would bond over this mobile game that he grew up playing as a child. It didn't even occur to me at that point that Pokemon Go could actually be a really good bonding exercise for parents and kids who want to get more out into the real world and introduce their kids to the video games they grew up playing. And the more and more that Pokemon Go has evolved and continued to go, the more I've seen these kind of stories. I've put myself in gyms with people above me and below me who are very clearly playing with their kids because they've put it in their names. I've seen parents take their children out on sunny days in Birmingham, where I now live, all around the nice parks, catching the Pokemon that are nesting there. I think it's really, really cool that Pokemon Go has got kids as part of families out into the real world playing a game that really hasn't set that kind of precedent before. So I think I'd have to give Family Game to Pokemon Go. The next award is for game design. The nominees are Battlefield 1, Dishonored 2, Inside, Overwatch, Titanfall 2 and The Witness. This is tough and yet not tough at all. Battlefield 1 is great. Dishonored 2 is amazing. I'm playing through Dishonored 2 slowly and working through it slowly, and the more I go through it, the more I think it's absolutely brilliant. The level of design is fantastic. Inside is great. Overwatch is my game of the year by a mile. I think it's brilliant. Titanfall 2 is amazing, but the level of intricate, masterful design on show in The Witness is just a step above. I have never seen something as clever and as intricate and as deep as The Witness is designed, and so I have to give it hands down to Jonathan Blow's The Witness. The next award goes to Game Innovation, and the nominations are Batman Arkham VR, Firewatch, Pokemon Go, That Dragon Cancer, Unseen Diplomacy, and The Witness. Couple of quick notes here. We interviewed Unseen Diplomacy last year at EGX. We got the opportunity to sit down and talk to them. And Unseen Diplomacy is awesome. Like, it's such a cool idea. It hadn't even occurred to me before we saw them that VR could be used like that. And I cannot wait to see the kind of projects that come from Unseen Diplomacy and the ground that they're breaking. But I would have to give Game Innovation to Batman Arkham VR. I have played a number of VR games at this point, and for me, the one that stuck with me the most was Batman Arkham VR. Let me put this into a little bit of context for you. I've played a number of VR games, and I've played a number of weird, cool VR demos. I've played a number of educational VR demos, and I've played actual gamey demos. My favourite VR game before I played Arkham VR was Windlands. It was so much fun and so fresh, and it made me appreciate VR in a way I hadn't done before. And then I played Arkham VR, and I just wanted to interact with everything. I wanted to tap on the keys. I wanted to throw all the gadgets about, and I wasn't even playing with the Move controllers. The second I stepped into Arkham VR, I just wanted to do it and be it and play it, and it made me want to interact with the game in a way I haven't in a long time, if ever. And that's a great deal because of my connection to Batman and those stories. But that's part of the genius of it. Rocksteady is using a license that they know people love and take really dear to them to make them want to interact with VR in a way they haven't done before, and it's brilliant. having seen how that game ends and how they use, brief spoiler for Arkham VR here, and how they use the Joker in Arkham VR, I'm glad I only played the demo, because that got quite unpleasant and quite unnerving and scary a bit there at the end. But yeah, I think I'd have to give Game Innovation to Batman Arkham VR for its really clever use of a license to make people want to interact with VR titles. Best Mobile Game is the next award, and the nominations are The Banner Saga 2, Dawn of Titans, Deus Ex Go, Pokemon Sun and Moon, Reigns. Hands down, this goes to Pokemon Go. I've never played a mobile game like I've played Pokemon Go. I have put more hours into Pokemon Go in the last 8 months than I probably have for any video game since Batman Arkham Knight. It's addictive. It makes my walk to work so much more fun. It makes me want to go out of my way and explore things more often. It's not taken over my life. That's a ridiculous thing to say, but it's just integrated so well with my life and the things that I do normally in the day-to-day. It's made walking to work so much more fun. It's made walking out to get a bit of dinner so much more fun. If we have nothing to do of an evening, me and my girlfriend will stand up and go for an hour Pokemon walk, because it's walking and it's great and it's fresh air and it's fun, but we also have that instant connection and that instant gratification of playing Pokemon. It is such a clever idea and such a clever use of a license, and I know that Niantic have done Ingress before, so it's really nothing new that they're doing. They're just doing it with a license, but it made me care about it so much more. There's no question in my mind this year, hands down, Pokemon Go gets Mobile Game of the Year. The next category is Multiplayer Game. I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. The nominations are Battlefield 1, Forza Horizon 3, Overcooked, Overwatch, Titanfall 2 and Tom Clancy's The Division. I think it's really unfair that Overcooked and Overwatch have come up against each other here. Overcooked is a couch co-op game. You can't play it online, and so it's a real shame that it's going up against these multiplayer behemoths. But it's got to be Overwatch for exactly the reasons I said earlier. It's so perfect as a gameplay loop, and it's so much fun to play with and interact with. The next category is Best Music, and the nominations here are Abzu, Doom, Inside, The Last Guardian, Uncharted 4, and Virginia. Unfortunately, again, I haven't really played any of the games on this list. I know enough about them to, I think, fairly confidently say that I think Doom is going to take this award. I think people praised it for its soundtrack at the time, and it wasn't praised for its soundtrack in the way that lots of kind of epic orchestral soundtracks are praised. It was praised for being something so tonally fitting, and that's very rare that you get that. So I think Doom will get it. But that's not necessarily my personal pick, because I can't really give a personal pick to any of these games. I've not actually dedicated any time to them. The next award goes to Game Narrative. Now, this is also going to be a difficult one, and I'll explain why. The nominations are Dishonored 2, Firewatch, Inside, Mafia 3, Oxenfree, that's difficult to say, and Uncharted 4. I think there are two big hitters on this list that could get the award, those being Firewatch and Uncharted 4, and Dishonored 2 potentially following just behind them. I've not played either a Firewatch or Uncharted 4, and whilst I have played Dishonored 2 and I'm really enjoying the story in it, I don't know that I'm able to say that I'm enjoying it enough that I'd enjoy it more than Uncharted 4 or appreciate it more than Uncharted 4 or Firewatch or so on and so forth. So I'm going to say here that the Best Narrative Award goes to Firewatch. I think that'll be the one that picks it up in the end, but again, that's not necessarily my personal pick. The next award is Original Property, and the nominations are Firewatch, Inside, The Last Guardian, Overwatch, Unravel, and The Witness. I don't know that it's fair to call The Last Guardian an original property for all sorts of reasons and where that game comes from, but my vote here goes for Overwatch. Blizzard with Overwatch have not just developed a game, they have developed a community, they have developed a brand, they have developed something that people will remember, I think, for a very long time to come. I think Overwatch is absolutely fantastic and instantly memorable, and so I'm going to say that I think the best original property this year is Overwatch. And finally, the best performer. Again, I'm going to come outright here and say I haven't played any of these games, and as a result, I'm only going to make a guess on who will get this based on the way the game was reviewed, the kind of things that were said about their performances at the time. So, Alex Hernandez for Mafia 3 as Lincoln Clay, Cissy Jones in Firewatch as Delilah, Emily Rose in Uncharted 4 as Elena Fisher, I'm sorry if I pronounce this wrong, Navid Nagaban in 1979 Revolution Black Friday as Haj Agar, Nolan North in Uncharted 4 as Nathan Drake, and Troy Baker in Uncharted 4 as Sam Drake. I'm going to give this one to Nolan North. I think the kind of connection that a lot of people have to Nathan Drake in Uncharted will be a very, very strong one, and to pull that off for a final game will be really, really difficult. So the fact that Nolan did is a very, very strong testament to him, despite the fact that he's very much a seasoned voice actor at this point. But I think Nolan North will take that award. And that about wraps us up. That was our news and our topic of the week. Those were our predictions. If you want to, and you're watching the Baftas, maybe see how we did. Maybe tell us how we did. Did I get all of these right, or was I horrendously wrong? You can tell us by getting in touch with us, by jumping on our Facebook page, where you can post and see photos that we post occasionally and keep up to date with all the episodes, or you can tweet us. All the links will be found in the description. Whilst you're clicking on things to get to that description, perhaps click on the like button, because we'd really appreciate it. It shows us that we're doing something that you enjoy or appreciate, or both, hopefully, and that's really nice to know. And if you're doing that, you might want to subscribe as well. We put one of these out every Monday at 6:30, and we'd hate for you to miss one. So, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for listening to my predictions. What were your predictions? We'd love to hear them. And until next week, the game's up.